can either believe it or they cannot believe it. I don't give two but I am telling you right now, that back there is not real.
Me, it look like a leprechaun to me. All I gotta do is look up in the tree. Who else sees a leprechaun? Say yeah!
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh.
Before the Tic Tac type UFO was flying at such speed there that it barely was able to stay on their radar. They didn't get a chance to shoot it down yet.
It's all shifty lawyer talk. I mean, this is like lawyers have scripted this shit. It's just so shifty how the words they use, the language and all this sort of stuff. It's so calculated, and it's war propaganda.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing.
Tim, what are you testing?
Testing that everything is as it should be this week. I see that in front of you. You've in front of your mouth, just below your mouth, you've got a beautiful, big, long microphone there. That's what I like to see, like mine. Big one in front of me.
I'm sure you like a big black thing in front of you. I've got the nice Rode podcaster thingo. I sound like I'm on a radio show.
Well, that's what we like. And you
there's
like
no
having it in
echo.
front of you?
There's no echo, and your internet's good, and you're not trolling this week by pressing a button that created echo like I know what you did last week, which you thought was very funny, but I thought that was not professional.
Yes,
everybody,
yes.
It's Tuesday, so it's news day. Welcome to the Theorist, and we've got a big show tonight. You ready, Tim?
Yes, I am, because on my own show last night, I didn't get a chance to discuss the horrific, sudden fires that were over the island of Maui in Hawaii that have so far looked like they've killed over 100 people and over 1,000 are missing. It was incredible footage. It just spontaneously happened.
Yeah, I think this might be I think it's definitely America's biggest killer bushfire ever, but it might be the biggest killer weather event, unless Hurricane Katrina, that probably, I'm sure more would have died from that. But Hurricane Katrina was fascinating because that was done by the government. Hurricane Katrina was a complete government operation.
Hurricanes, like it's hurricane season in summer on the Atlantic coast from like Florida to Georgia to Texas, all of those southern states. Like it's a natural phenomena.
They they seem to have hurricanes a lot, and now especially that the government seems to be messing with the weather, they're having hurricanes probably all year round. But the Hurricane Katrina thing was they did it. They took a hurricane that was probably naturally occurring, they pumped it up, and then they blew the levee so the water would explode, and the whole thing was set up. Now, the reason that relates to the fires in Hawaii is because the New World Order, the communist world government, is willing to do crazy bushfires, and it appears that's what they're doing to Hawaii, and I think they've done it to Australia, like when we had those crazy bushfires in late 2019, early 2020, just before COVID.
Just before, yeah.
Yep, the one Max Egan was going wild about, trying to expose.
Well, he got shot in the head with a laser. I remember I interviewed him about it. During the first lockdown, and he said it made him talk nonstop for days. And
Yeah, that's really interesting because I mean, I said that flat Earth stuff is government disinfo designed to mislead conspiracy theorists, similar to QAnon stuff. And then when he got zapped by some government remote mind control around when he was exposing those bushfires, it was about early 2020. He started talking gibberish and saying he was like the next Jesus, and he started talking about flat Earth a lot. So it's like they wanted to make him appear silly, and it's like the mind programming that they did with that energy, that remote mind control. So like it involved flat Earth, and so anyway, it's pretty interesting. But that's not the only. They've been doing these weather events heaps. Like I reckon they made the floods happen last year. Like in our springtime, it was just crazy. All those floods we were having.
Well, and
I think
also
like
the fact that there was not proper flood levies, that things had been, imagine my shock, poorly
yes.
planned by government.
Yes,
That
and they didn't let the dams out, which they needed to do because like when you have a flood, when you have heavy rains coming, it's good to let the dams out so that then you can there's a bit of a buffer. But it's like they wanted everything to be as bad as possible.
I
But I've
think
been
you wrote
looking.
about this on the Unshackled last year at the time. I might bring it up.
Oh, that'd be really good if you could do that. Very efficient and quick of you. But I've been looking into the bushfires we had in 2009 because that was the Black Saturday bushfires were crazy, and I believe unnatural, and I believe that was like the Hawaii bushfire thing. I think the Black Saturday bushfires that we had were the worst killer bushfires we've ever had in
Yes,
Australian
the ones
history.
in Victoria
Yeah,
i-
no, yeah,
in
mainly north of Melbourne.
2009.
Yeah, yeah, and that one had the quick changing weather. It was cool in the afternoon, and it's very sus. I was listening to Alex Jones today, and Alex Jones wasn't talking about the lasers starting the fires in Hawaii. Alex Jones was saying it's damn Antifa starting the fires, and he's going Antifa are government agents, and that's who they are. Antifa are just a front group for the CIA and ASIO in Australia. They
Well,
use
I
the
know
cover of
that
Antifa.
after during the Black Saturday, so the Black Summer bushfires. So Summer was what they titled the 2019-20 bushfires. Then Liberal Senator Conchera Fierravanti Wells wanted the intelligence agencies and the federal police to investigate whether climate groups had started the bushfires.
Well, that's fascinating because that's basically what Alex Jones was saying. He was saying these radical Antifa people are lighting the bushfires. He wasn't talking about the lasers. I haven't seen much about the lasers starting the fires, but I believe that probably is what happened here because it seems that in previous big bushfire events, they would use these lasers to start it off. It basically looks like a lightning bolt, so it's like you can just blame it on nature and say it was
Yeah,
God or something.
so it's called. This is I found this on David Icke's website. So it's called directed
Directed
energy
energy weapon.
weapons. I hadn't heard of this before because we'll we'll play some of the footage of Maui, and I'll unmute ourselves while we play this helicopter
Is this
footage.
the news report or is this
No,
something
this
else?
isn't.
Oh, okay.
This is. Yeah, so as you can see that everything has flattened, but the trees here. Andy, you need to unmute yourself so you can talk during this time because I can't unmute you while
Yeah,
the video
well,
is playing.
listening to Alex Jones was very interesting because he was saying the Antifa agents would light these fires, and then when they get caught by the police, the intelligence agents, judges, and globalist judges would just let them off. And I spoke to a lawyer here in Victoria who's sus about these bushfires, and he noticed that people were getting let off. And not getting, the law wasn't coming down hard on people who were starting fires. Why? Because they want them to happen.
Well, obviously, it suits the climate global boiling narrative on the ABC's Q&A program last night, which thankfully not many people watched. All the panelists were saying, "Oh, this summer's going to be really bad in Australia. Oh, we thought that the smoke over the Harbour Bridge and Opera House was bad, but we've seen Hawaii, New York, and that the Rhodes Island on Greece. Remember that one was deliberately lit. So you say that the globalists always tell us what they're going to do in advance, and they're really pumping up this summer that we're all going to fry from 50-degree global boiling.
Absolutely, and I noticed that as well. And already made a prediction on Telegram. I said that they're gonna do something big this summer, and it's gonna be some sort of bushfire. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be a flood. Last year they hit us with all this crazy rain and floods, but yeah, this year there's all this vegetation that's grown, and they're gonna let it go dry for a month. They're gonna stop it from raining for a month. It's gonna be all dry, and then they're gonna whip up the winds, and they're gonna get their Antifa dudes to go out there and start some fires.
Do you want me to play the ABC American News Report now? We
Yeah,
can copy
yeah.
throughout through.
Can you play just play the news report, because it shows lots of what the word is outpoints, and that they're odd things that don't make sense and are not quite right. And when you get all these coincidences of all these stuff ups, you go, hold on a second, was this a stuff up or was this intentionally caused? And that's what this news report means to me. It shows all these stuff ups.
Our team in Maui, and there are awful, haunting new images just now emerging this evening, along with the search for the missing there. This is now the deadliest fire in the U.S. in more than 100 years. Survivors are now being asked to provide DNA to help identify victims there. Just some of the images coming to light: desperate people clinging to the seawall, choked by the air, the flames raging just yards away. So many jumping into the ocean just to survive. The mother and her two sons who waited in the water for 5 hours just to escape the flames to survive. And the images of the violent winds that fueled the fire, the power lines bending, some breaking. And tonight here, the serious new questions: where were the warnings, the sirens? Why wasn't the power turned off amid those winds? And why did firefighters report fire hydrants with no water? ABC's Whit Johnson in Maui again tonight for us.
Tonight, terrifying new video from what is now the deadliest wildfire in modern U.S. history. People seen clinging to the Maui shoreline. You can hear the firestorm as it rips through historic Lahaina town. Denny Euchert stuck in traffic, capturing the howling winds, smoke and flames bearing down on him.
You can feel the heat off the traffic. It's just...
Denny, thinking he wouldn't survive, said his final goodbyes.
My dad, my mom, my son David, I love you all.
Speaking with our Melissa Adan.
I could honestly say I've been through hell and back, and thank God they didn't want me.
For many in Lahaina, jumping into the ocean was their only escape from those 1,000-degree flames devouring a mile every minute.
You're gonna be okay, Milo.
19-year-old Noah Tonkinson, along with his mother and younger brother, waiting in the water for 5 hours.
We're through the worst of it. We're gonna be okay.
The family of Joe Schilling, known locally as Uncle Joe, says they believe he died trying to help his neighbors, sharing the last photos they received from him, showing homes, his too, about to go up in flames.
Oh, there isn't anybody in the family or who knew Joe that would be surprised that he would put himself at risk to help somebody else.
Authorities have not publicly released the names of any of the victims, but tonight it's clear the death toll will keep rising.
They will find 10 to 20 people per day probably until they finish. And it's probably going to take 10 days. It's impossible to guess, really.
With hundreds still unaccounted for, officials urging survivors to provide DNA samples to help identify the dead.
The wind is making it worse.
And questions tonight about why the utility company, despite warnings, failed to cut the power, raising the risk that down electric lines could spark more fires. Power lines toppling like matchsticks.
I know, were there moments when you feared for your life?
Yeah, a few.
Firefighter Ina Kohler worked desperately with her colleagues to protect homes, even as they watched their own homes burn to the ground.
What are you going to do? We got to keep going. It's our duty.
Her husband, Johnny Verona, also a firefighter, had to evacuate with their 2 kids that day, but was able to listen to his wife's voice on his radio.
It was actually incredibly relieving to hear her voice.
Ina and her crew using hoses to douse the flames until she says the hydrants went dry.
I felt the hose line coming in from the hydrant, the intake line, and it was soft.
So,
and I was like, there's no pressure, there's no water.
So the hydrant ran out of water?
Dry. Yeah.
We reached out to the water company. No response so far. Ina says they're among the 17 of 18 firefighters who lived in Lahaina and lost their homes. but still reporting to work, answering the call.
They've been at work every single day.
Yeah,
They're
to
going in
fill
for
in extra
overtime
crews.
because what else are you going to I can't just sit at home and cry.
Those firefighters are real heroes in this, of course, and with the nightmare just got worse and worse when they report the fire hydrants being dry. You reported over the weekend with it. Officials at the time said only 3% of the burn zone had been searched by cadaver dogs. I know they've made some progress today. You reported it earlier, but so much of the destruction they haven't even made it to. A long way to go here. And as we know, the death toll mounting just before we came on tonight.
Yeah, David, just moments ago, the governor confirming that at least 99 people have died in these fires. And David, tonight, there are also growing questions about the island's siren warning system. Authorities say it was not activated when it was needed most. David?
So many tough questions, so many important questions. And Whit Johnson, we really appreciate you being there.
Yeah, we have to watch out. This summer, they might do something like that to us.
And I wrote my own comment when we were playing that. Every extreme weather event occurred at once suddenly, and then when the reporter's interviewing the survivors, the weather's fine again. Have you seen that movie Geostorm? It was made about 5 or 6 years ago, where this global weather control system is created, Dutch boy, to make sure that that there is no extreme weather ever again. But then it becomes weaponized and it destroys half the world.
Yeah, for someone who's personally very interested in this whole weather thing, that movie was so interesting because I was like, oh my God. It's just amazing. And I think that they made that movie happen because then people can just laugh it off and say, oh, Andy Nolch, he just believes in that movie or whatever. And that's just a
Hollywood's
silly
always
movie.
got, like, they get inspiration from insider knowledge when they make these movies.
Yeah, I think the CIA plant things like they planted in the storyline of a TV show just before 9/11. I think it came out a few months before 9/11.
Oh, that
the
was
storyline.
yes,
The
that was The Lone Gunman. The first
Yeah.
episode was it was called Scenario 12. It would have been interesting if it was Scenario 11, which is an attack on the World Trade Center where remotely the controls are locked on the plane, and it's going to be blamed on terrorists so they can launch a war on the Middle East. And so that show, it was made by the creators of the X-Files. It was cancelled after 13 episodes just before 9/11 happened itself.
Yeah, I mean that's so specific. I mean, who would it's just that's not a coincidence. And
Well, there
with
had
this other,
been the World Trade Center bombings in 1993.
yeah, I know, but the way planes into it and stuff, it was just so incredible. And the way this movie about the weather control, how somebody hijacks it and uses it to create crazy storms. I mean, that's just so similar to what's really going on in life. Anyway, we've got to switch topics. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. Tim, do you have anything to play about the mushroom lady?
Yes, there has been a new revelation in that inside her former home, there was a death wall. And so this was taken by a tradie a number of years ago. He was ordered to paint over it. And so it has things such as you don't long to live 1 hour exactly. You're dead from my sword. And underneath two stick figures, a male and female, the words, I am dead. No, I am really dead. One of the tombstones appears to say, Grandma Rip, while the third one reads, Me Rip. Next to the light switch is written, the mullet man. Other random scrolls on the bizarre mirror include eternity, oh yeah, and get ready. The tradie said we started calling it the death wall. The man who asked not to use his real name got a phone call from a real estate agent last year asking him to paint the wall so the property could be sold. I've looked at it and gone, holy shit, what's going on here? Where I went, this is actually really scary for kids to do this inside kitchen dining room. I didn't think it was right. It looked scary. It just didn't look right to me as a parent. And so, yeah, he's obviously reported it now. The tradie said he snapped the picture, and apart from showing a few mates, didn't think of it again until the fatal mushroom poisonings hit the headlines. Now, of course, the mushroom things come out. The tradie described the Pattersons sort of a quiet family. They kept to themselves. The tradie told news.com.au is where homicide detectives wanted to speak to him about the photo, the existence of which had been previously reported. So yes, it just gets there's a as revelation.
The evidence just keeps on adding up. And I mean, I've done acting and stuff. So when I saw her crying on camera, I was just like, man, that is acting. And then
And
yeah.
again, this is like in a lot of series where because apparently she invited them to dinner, her in-laws and her mother-in-law's sister, because they'd separated, the Pattersons, is like to clear the air. And there's so many movies and TV shows, as I hear, where there's these warring tribes or whatever, and they're invited for a meal, and it's poisoned, and then they all die on the table. And
So did she invite them to clear the air to try and solve some sort of conflict?
Or yes, to clear the air about their separation, that we're all still going to be friends and that.
It's anyway, it's questionable, the whole thing. I mean, if she's gonna have a divorce from her former partner and she gets some of his assets, and then maybe if his parents pass away, then maybe he'll get those assets and then she can get access to those assets. I don't know. I don't know what the law is on that, but it's sus. And I showed my friend the video of her crying, and he was watching it going, what the hell is this? Like, he was really shocked by it as well. He didn't think that was just a normal person crying. And it reminded me of the Sandy Hook parents and their testimony at the Alex Jones court cases, because I can tell when someone's acting. And it was really happy when I specifically showed my friend to see what he thought of this video, and he thought it was totally fake as well. I mean, anyway, we know what's happening. I guess
What do you think about those Hawaiians who were interviewed? They apparently lost their homes, and they weren't crying or anything. They were talking calmly. It gone back to being a tropical paradise again. They were just talking to him.
Yeah,
like
when people are acting and putting on a fake cry or something like that, somehow it just doesn't quite come across unless they're like some really good actor. And you can sort of tell, and it just seems wrong, and you're just like, what? And when you see the cameras confront her, and it's just weird, the whole thing. But we should change topics, Tim, or is there anything more?
No, we'll keep going. Obviously, through our various shows and channels, we'll keep our viewers informed. And last week, you and a few others didn't think this was a big story, but it's taken the world by storm. Lady of Shalott has said this is getting huge coverage in the UK. It's such a bizarre story. And the fact that she's blamed, like said, it was a mixture of mushrooms I bought from a local supermarket and an Asian grocery store. So she's tried to smear the Asian grocers by saying, oh, I just got them from these. And she claims that she got sick from the mushrooms and needed to go to hospital, but she's fine now. So sort of how would she know to poison herself? Like only a little bit.
It's a bit of a train wreck, the whole thing. I mean, look, she's innocent until proven guilty, but like it looks very much likely that she did do it. It's nice to see the mainstream media actually bring up conspiracy theories and stuff like that. It's probably because she's a nobody, because she's not some person connected with the government.
And also,
it's not a leftist.
This is an unusual way to kill people, but these mushrooms, death cap mushrooms, they're called that for a reason. And do you think it's like I might have mentioned this last week? Do you think it's gross that we eat fungi? I don't eat mushrooms, but we eat fungi. The mushrooms are fungi.
Yeah, I mean, the weird stuff like that grows under people's houses where it's damp and stuff. Like it is a bit weird.
Yes, and obviously there's also magic mushrooms as well, where you also have a temporarily out of body experience. Obviously, with death cap mushrooms, you're permanently out of your body because you're likely dead.
Yeah, well, magic mushrooms is some sort of mental thing, and but for eating, I don't I don't I honestly don't eat mushrooms because I noticed I would get a bit of an allergic reaction, and then I
Yeah, but
realized that I clean mold off the bathroom, and you know, you wear masks to get away from molds and funguses and stuff, and so I don't think it's really normal to eat them.
if
But
you actually look close up at a mushroom, they're really gross.
yeah, and with the thing about this mushroom case is that I noticed this with the government is that and in the media, they pick on people who, you know, aren't rich, who aren't well connected and stuff, and then they jump in on it because there's conspiracies happening all the time, but they won't go in on it. But from day one with this mushroom lady, they were going down the conspiracy route. And it's because it wasn't Brittany Higgins. Like, why wasn't from day one they were going down the Brittany Higgins conspiracy route? Because I was going down the conspiracy route day one. And we should talk about this Brittany Higgins chick because she is a whore and she needs to be called out for being a fucking dirty whore. And she's worse than a whore. I can't even think of a word to describe how disgusting she is because she's getting paid by the government. She's a sleazy
She
rat
got a
bag, and a
lump sum
video.
of
She's a
$3 million.
sleazy rat bag. I mean, look, yeah, and she's getting $3 million. I mean, she's just a full blown disgusting criminal, right? And this week a video came out about her talking with Lisa Wilkinson, right? And them
Oh,
planning
Samantha,
like
no, this one, it was Samantha Maiden. So the first 7 News Spotlight was the tapes of Lisa Wilkinson, Brittany Higgins, David Shiraz, and Lisa Wilkinson, the three of them. The tapes this time on 7 News Spotlight were between Samantha Maiden, who wrote the story on news.com.au, and Brittany Higgins. She won the Golden Walkley Award, and also Linda Reynolds, who employed Brittany Higgins, and Bruce Lehrmann broke her silence as well. And Brittany Higgins, she never used, according to Linda Reynolds, the R word, that she was raped. And also Brittany Higgins never returned her color Zempati jacket that she wore the next morning, because remember, she was found naked on the couch by one of the parliamentary security.
the case is just full of so many holes. Like it's a scam from the start, and it was designed by the intelligence agency to dirty the Liberals, to make them out as if they're anti-women, and then gain votes to the Labor Party because they rig the elections. They manipulate our opinions and stuff, and they try to sway the opinion away from Scott Morrison and onto Anthony Albanese. The video I was watching is on YouTube, and it's called Bruce Lehrmann Breaks His Silence on Brittany Higgins' Case. Full 7 News.
Yeah.
It goes for an hour and 23 minutes, and it's just really interesting because Lisa Wilkinson is like an intelligence agent. Like, she is like sitting there and she's grooming Brittany Higgins, and she's telling her how to say things, and it's like a trial run before they do their big expose. And Lisa Wilkinson was also quite prominent when Eurydice Dixon got murdered, and she was talking a lot and stuff. And I believe that was an intelligence program, not that they caused the murder, but they saw it and they said, oh, let's run through this whole program of promoting feminism and all this stuff. And it's like they had this same program with this Brittany Higgins rape thing, except I think from the start they invented it and they said, let's just say that rape happened, even though it didn't happen. It's outrageous.
Did you also know that Lisa Wilkinson, she gave an award, presented an award to the Women's Weekly magazine, which Lisa Wilkinson has worked for, gave a award to that fraudster Belle Gibson. Remember, she claimed that she cured her cancer through just healthy eating, and she even had a book released, The Whole Pantry, and it was going to be an app on the Apple Watch, until it was revealed that she had made it completely up, and nobody bothered to check. They just presented her. And I remember one of the morning show bimbos said to her, "You look very good for somebody who's had cancer," and that's because she never had cancer. But Lisa Wilkinson, cried presenting Belle Gibson, this fraudster, with an award.
Lisa Wilkinson is really dodgy and she's calculating. And I remember when she gave some big feminist speech or whatever, she like cried and it was probably like a fake cry. And she's very calculating. And when you watch this YouTube video, you see how she really thinks behind the scenes and how she's calculating and she's shifty. And I knew that when you see these people like Brittany go on the news and talk and stuff like that, you can tell she's being groomed. You can tell that someone behind the scenes has said, say these things, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, so
And
her
it's all a
fiance
big show.
has been quite prominent behind the scenes. Remember, he gave advance knowledge to Katie Gallagher about what was happening, the story that was going to break. And Linda Reynolds, remember, she was forewarned by the late Kimberly Kitching that Labor were going to weaponize this. So.
Well, look,
Yeah.
the Communist Intelligence Agency has a lot of people working in the media, and that includes presenters, the presenters of shows. And Lisa Wilkinson is an intelligence agent. She doesn't do James Bond type stuff, but she just presents things, and someone's telling her to push certain agendas. The people who run the world, the depopulationists, they have been pushing feminism because they're trying to depopulate us and stop women from having babies and stuff. And this whole anti-man agenda and this whole accuse men of being raped thing is a part of this feminism thing, and it's part of the depopulation thing. And people like Lisa probably actually think what they're doing is right. They probably think it's like, oh no, I'm trying to help workplaces so that women don't feel uncomfortable, and like she probably doesn't even know what's really going on, the truth about these agendas and shit. But it's pretty interesting. But I knew this whole rape case was bullshit, but it's great to see the truth come out. And there's probably good people within the government, within the agencies, who are wanting to expose this, and that's how this stuff got leaked.
Well, she lashed out at the Australian Federal Police, Brittany Higgins. She said, "Oh, they didn't want to charge my rapist, and I was horribly mistreated by them."
Anyway, it's bullshit. Can I mention something about Lauren Southern? Because I know that she had this video she released like over a month ago.
Yeah,
but I was away.
you're late to this. You are overseas. It was, yeah, the last 5 years about the end of her marriage, and of course she was the victim, and like I was wrong about wanting to be a trad wife and promote it, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, well, I did a knowledge report about it, which is like 10-minute long videos that I make on certain topics. It's on my Telegram channel and BitChute channel. And I spoke about how she got tricked by a Fed, basically. And the word is that this guy wasn't a Fed when they first got together. I highly question that. And then he joined the agency or something like that. And then when they were together, he was trying to control her because he didn't want her to be this big evil right winger, and he didn't want his career to be ruined. So she had to.
But that is like fair enough. But in her video, it sounded like she didn't really want to be a trad wife. I mean, she disappeared once she got married because, well, she'd had a child, and that most actual trad wives are just in the background. They're not prominent when they're being trad wives, because obviously they're cooking, cleaning, and caring for the children. The probably the most authentic trad wife I've come across that actually is a proper trad wife is my former Trad Tasman Talk co-host Dewey DeBoer, Amy. I mean, she's appeared on camera a few times, but she's in the background, taking care of the children while he works and brings home the bacon and cleaning the house.
Yeah, well, what I think is interesting about this is that she married some guy. The guy was trying to get her to stop being politically active. Then the guy moved her to Australia. And then a part of that was that she had to stop being politically active in order to get her Australian visa, right? And the guy joined a federal agency or something, probably some sort of intelligence thing maybe an FBI thing or something like that. Firstly, somebody who has right-wing connections is a right-winger wouldn't get hired by these sorts of departments. Like if I went to go and try and get hired by them, they would be like, "Are you serious?" Now, you can get hired by them if you say, "Hey, come and hire me. I'll secretly be an agent and spy on the right wing."
If you can be hired as an asset.
As an agent, and that's what I believe is going on with this guy. I think that he was I think he was an agent before that, and he was spying on the right wing and getting data, and I believe he got sent in to marry Lauren Southern and then stuff up her life so that then she wouldn't be politically active. These are the sorts of stuff the intelligence agencies do. It really is what they do. And so Lauren got knocked up by a fucking Fed, and he screwed her over, and now she doesn't have that perfect marriage. And I don't think it's because of her beliefs or whatever. I think it's because he was a freaking Fed, and the marriage was never supposed to work out. It was only going to be like a 3-year thing, and he was going to screw her over. But people need to know this, and people in the right wing, especially famous people in the right wing movement, need to know that the government is willing to kill you. That's what you need to know, and that's what the knowledge report that I was saying is about. So if they're willing to kill you, do you think they're willing to impregnate you? Do you think they're willing to marry you? Do you think they're willing to be your best friend and mislead you? Yes. Okay, so your phone full on is a way to spy on you massively, but people are a way to manipulate you. So watch out in the right wing movement. I reckon Lauren got totally screwed over. I reckon, and she's gullible, and she probably doesn't believe in conspiracies that much. So but if I was in her case, I'll be like, what the fuck? I just married a Fed. He screwed over my life. This is all bullshit. I hate the government. Anyway.
Well, obviously, it's healthy to be paranoid in this line of fighting the info wars. I know that when the Unshackled expanded in 2018, we had a broader cross of contributors. We set up the studio. There was always this paranoia: is this person that I'm meeting or talking to, could they possibly be a Fed? It's always at the at the back of your mind.
It's true. I've been involved with some different groups. Like we've got here, like the right wingers, and then you got like UFO groups, and there's like Scientology groups. And when you learn how to pick someone who's a Fed or like a government agent or something like that, I noticed their influence in all these different areas, because the government's so big, it has so many different departments, it has so many different intelligence agencies that different areas in life, someone from the government is bound to pop up. And so you just have to be wary of it. And so, I mean, look at all the people who got tricked at the January 6th event, who got tricked to go into the building, and that was all bullshit and all designed to bring down Trump. Hey, speaking of some American stuff, there's that article came out that Obama said he was gay. Or Obama said he had gay thoughts.
Yes, this was in a recently revealed letter to an ex-girlfriend in 1982. So they're from his biographer, David Garrow, which I'm surprised that, well, he's still alive to reveal this. There was another movie, it was a Roman Polanski movie, The Ghostwriter, where the former British Prime Minister, his ghostwriter mysteriously dies, and so this guy played by Ewan McGregor is hired to be his new ghost writer. And he's based on Tony Blair, the Prime Minister played by Pierce Brosnan. And what eventually is discovered is that his wife was a CIA asset, and that's why he went along with the Iraq War. And he's eventually killed in the end as well. So 2 ghostwriters have gone as well. And of course, Roman Polanski knows how to get away with crimes. And so him making this movie, it's very, again, Hollywood dropping hints, but I digress. So I'm surprised that his biographer was able to unearth this letter. So he said he confessed to confess to making love to men daily, but in the imagination. In regard to homosexuality, I must say that I believe this is an attempt to remove oneself from the present, a refusal perhaps to perpetuate the endless farce of earthly life. You see, I make love to men daily, but in the imagination. And so in the previously unearthed Obama writing, he wrote, he is androgynous to a great extent, to make it more so until he can think in terms of people, not women, as opposed to men. He also noted that he chose to accept the contingency that it had been given by being physically born as a man. And this comes as his half brother, Malak Obama, in Kenya, who's supporting Trump, said that Barack is definitely gay. And of course, the rumors about Michelle, that she is actually a he, Michael Obama, Big Mike, have been circulating for years. And that is why Joan Rivers died suddenly. So, first of all, how is the biographer still alive how is he allowed to reveal this?
I don't know. It's very interesting. I'm going to read through it again and watch this movie that you're talking about because I haven't seen it. But, on our first show, we spoke about this strange thing where the comedian lady said that Obama was gay. And we spoke about Michelle possibly being a man. I'm actually not really quite sure about that, but hearing this thing about him having all his gay thoughts, I mean, that really seems correct. There's definitely something there. There's something going on with the Obamas. It's strange. It's totally strange.
Remember when he was first running for president, there was obviously a lot of rumors that he was secretly a Muslim, or as the Americans say, Muslim. And remember, he had that gaffe in a press conference where he said, "My Muslim faith."
Mm.
But
It's strange.
yeah, but Americans still voted for him twice, even though, remember, his full name made him sound like a terrorist, Barack Hussein Obama.
Yeah.
And he went to he went to school in Indonesia. Remember, that's where he was raised, in a Muslim majority country. I mean, he basically, I think he settled in Chicago because it was obviously black, in a predominantly black area, and then married Michelle, maybe Michael, to basically immerse himself in the black Chicago community so he could present himself as African American, even though his father was Kenyan, not an African American. His mother was white, and he went to school in Indonesia.
Yeah, he reeks of being an intelligence agent and an intelligence agency family, because that's how it sort of runs. They pass it on to their kids, and their kids become agents and stuff like that. All this traveling and all this mixed stuff in different countries, it's a dog's breakfast, and the homosexuality, and because they tend to choose people who have something they can blackmail them on or something like that.
Well, that's a pretty big thing, because remember 2008, it wasn't a gay marriage wasn't politically expedient to support it in 2008. Obama said he didn't support it, and even California voted to ban gay marriage. So, of course, if he wanted to be president, he'd suppress these, or just keep these homosexual thoughts in his mind.
Yeah, and once you've gone down a certain course of action, you can't reverse from that. So you have to keep on going with that. Otherwise, people can call you out for bullshit or being a hypocrite or something like that. So he's stuck in whatever he's stuck in. So it's not like he can just come out of the closet or something like that. It's all very, very interesting. There's one thing I want to mention before we finish up the show, and it's about Dan Andrews. It's just something small. He fired one of his staffer members because the staffer member was accused of something. Like,
Oh, this was an MP, Will Fowles.
yeah, he didn't get charged by the police. He didn't get
No,
found
no,
guilty. He
no,
was just
no.
accused of something.
Well, and the alleged victim hasn't filed a police report, but Dan Andrews has, well, kicked him out of the Parliamentary Labor Party.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because obviously if you were convicted of a crime, then it makes sense to get fired. I don't know if it makes sense if you get charged, but that's a bit of a gray area. But that didn't even happen in this situation. He just got kicked out. And it's like that's how these things work, and that's how I think these political parties become so nutty and so retarded, because it's just anyone who just doesn't quite fit in or has different ideas, they
Oh,
can just kick him out. They can just kick him
he
out.
previously in 2019, he'd bashed in a kicked in a hotel door in Canberra, in he described a mental health episode, and so he took leave. So that wasn't his first indiscretion.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's probably something wrong with the guy. But yeah, it's just interesting how these parties work and how it reminds me of like the Big Brother book 1984, where it's so thought controlled, and it's so like obviously a rebel like me could never get involved with one of these parties because I'll just get kicked out. Like it doesn't matter. I wouldn't have to break the law or anything. They'll just be like, you were just a thought criminal, and you'll just be out. Like they have all these nerdy, well-behaved people, and they control them heavily. And anyway, is there anything else?
Paleoconservative Australian, it has said, do a clip on the undercover video of the Anti-Defamation League employees bragging about censoring social media. I have seen that. Thank you for reminding me. Paleoconservative Australian reminds me of a lot of news which I've come across, but don't come around to remembering when I'm putting my shows together. So have you seen that? Because well, it's no surprise that, that they would be bragging about that. I mean, the Anti-Defamation League in the United States, they're all about suppressing free speech in the name of curtailing hate speech. And of course, we have the Anti-Defamation Commission in Australia, headed by Devere Abramovich. And I noticed today that the Age did a hit piece on one of the Jewish no advocates for The Voice, David Adler, who heads the Australian Jewish Association, because he shared the meme about Tan Grant's skin complexion, and also wondered how much percentage Aboriginal Lydia Thorpe was.
Yeah, I mean, these people aren't ashamed about being against freedom of speech. They're quite proud of it. They think what they're doing is right to stop hate speech or bullying, and that's all bullshit. They just want to stop ideas that they don't like or they disagree with. It also reminds me of how Google like openly admit that they manipulate the search results, and they're proud of it, and they want to do that so that like the UN comes up.
Oh
with
yes,
Google
Google and
questions.
YouTube, it just spits out mainstream media
Stuff,
stuff.
yeah. And they've probably been doing it since the start, but like I have
Oh
noticed the
no, back
internet.
in there, the golden age, pretty
Yeah, the
much
guy I was gonna say there was like a golden age. You're talking about like between like
before Trump
2000
got
and
elected.
yes, that's what I was gonna say because like things really have changed since like 2016. But before, remember you could search things on YouTube and Google, and it just wasn't ridiculous. And YouTube and
Yeah,
Facebook
you
had a
could
lot
watch
more
so
cool.
many conspiracy videos.
Yeah, yeah. That like things were much. Yeah, it was like the golden age of the internet,
You
probably
could watch
between.
all of the videos suggesting that Michelle Obama is a man, the Clinton body count, but they've all been scrubbed from YouTube now.
Yeah, it was probably between maybe 2005 and 2010. It was just this period where the internet was freaking
Yeah.
cool and conspiracies went wild, and like they're still super popular now, but they've really clamped down. And it's like they clamped down before COVID. It's like they were like, we got COVID coming, we need to have the internet under
Well,
full
some
control, and
speculate
they
that
boom.
was to get rid of Trump, because Trump would have
Yeah,
got reelected if 2020 was normal. And it seems that when Australia votes no to The Voice, that's when there's going to be another ratcheted up. And then Albo's going to say, this is why we need these misinformation and disinformation laws, because that's why people voted no to The Voice.
yeah, and that golden age. I mean, you could just write some wild stuff on Facebook, and you wouldn't even think you're getting deleted, and then it just increased bit by bit, and it just got stricter and stricter. And yeah. Anyway, Well, we should finish up the show. I don't think there's much else to talk about.
Yes, thank you again, everyone, for watching. Now, so that we can continue to grow, especially our live audience, make sure that you subscribe to the Theorists YouTube channel, and also we've got the backup on Odyssey and Rumble. We've been doing pretty well on YouTube. The only thing that's been bad is, of course, the internet and audio glitches, but we were pretty good tonight.
Yeah, yeah. I think we'll keep on going, and it's just about learning and talking about these things, and then raising awareness, so that we don't get tricked by this bullshit that's going on.
Because 2024 is going to be big with Australian, UK, US elections, possibly Canadian election as well, depending. So there's going to be you can guarantee 2024 is going to be lots of psyops.
How come the Aussie one's only after 2 years? Because the other one was in 2022, right?
Well, because in the first half of 2025, there's got to be both a Tasmanian election and a WA state election. So it'd be too cluttered to have the federal election.
So they're bringing it early towards the end of 2024.
Yes, because you can do that with
wow.
and still have the half Senate election.
Yeah, well, I think that the American election is going to be pretty interesting. But
I know you're backing RFK Jr. He got the endorsement of Woody Harrelson, the Hollywood anarchist. Remember his SNL routine? He said, that everyone has to stay locked in their home until they take the big pharma cartel's drug. And he said, I threw the script away, as if that's realistic.
Yeah, that was funny. I don't know. Imagine you tell people in 2019 about COVID and you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe it. I wouldn't believe it. Even me, I was a big conspiracy theorist. And if you told me this was coming in the future, I'd be like, nah. Like, it was just that period was so crazy. And then I noticed massively in 2022, the news died off and the activity died off, and now it's much more peaceful. But during that period of like 2 years, if we had done this show, we should have done this show back then, because the stuff that was
well, you were in
was
jail.
wild.
You were in jail in 2020 for
Yeah, but 2021 and the first half of 2022, the news that was coming out was just like boom, boom, boom. I mean, we would have been like, it was just anyway.
Yeah, I think the first, you could sort of say, a Theorists prequel, when we did our 20-year 9/11 show, 20 years since the 9/11 attacks, because there's all those still inconsistencies with Building 7. Lucky Larry Silverstein and his family weren't in the building in that day. A lot.
Outpoints.
Yeah, and Ted Olson's wife, Barbara Olson, phoned him before she died, telling him about what the hijackers had, and that became the narrative.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're willing to sacrifice people, and they're just doing it so often. Like, I understand doing a 9/11, doing a school shooting, but then when they notice it doesn't work, they just do another school shooting, another school shooting, another school shooting, and another extreme weather event, another one. And it's like, are you guys serious? Like, when are you going to realize that it's not working? We're not going to buy your bullshit about gun control. We're not going to buy your bullshit about all this climate stuff and put in all this communist crap for climate. Like, I don't know. I'm just interested in seeing how long they go, because it seems like we haven't had much of a mass shooting recently, so they've maybe died off with that. But
there was obviously it was deemed religiously motivated extremist shooting of those 3 police officers in Western Queensland at the end of last year. That's probably the biggest.
Yeah, but there was a period there of like 3 years where there was so many school shootings. It was wild. It was before COVID, I think, and I think maybe they realized, it's not working, and they might have like.
It all started with Columbine, and then there was basically copycats since then. That was the really, like, Michael Moore made a movie about it, Bowling for Columbine, and then there was just more and more and more continued through the Trump administration. But they're occurring in other places now, these mass shootings in the United States, like shopping malls, heaps of other public places.
Yeah, Well, anyway, I think that they do eventually wake up and maybe they'll stop doing the crazy shit. So yeah, hopefully they stop this weather stuff because seriously, if you're in Australia now, watch out this spring and summer because I think they're going to do something like really like they do warn us. They warned us about the floods. I know how to read them and they're going to do some like Black Saturday thing again. Yeah.
Well, we better brace ourselves, and we'll be here to to monitor the narrative there. But
yeah, at least we won't have a lot of rain because rain's pretty annoying when you're outside and stuff. We're just gonna have smoky air.
Oh well,
and
that happened
windy
last
days.
year.
Yeah. Oh, what the smoky air?
No, the rains and the floods.
Oh
that
yeah,
was
yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah. They've moved on from that, and probably in 2 years' time they'll do the floods again. Anyway, let's get going. I'm running out of battery.
Yep. Thank you tonight, Andy. Thank you to everyone in the chat. And we'll be back next week for another Theorists, 9 p.m. on YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey. Make sure you give a thumbs up, comment below to help the algorithm, and definitely subscribe to click the bell to allow for notifications, and also follow our social medias on Telegram.
Andy Nolch on Telegram.
And are you on X, Twitter?
Yep, Andy Nolch on Twitter. So
yeah, I'm Wilms Front on Twitter.
Yeah. Hey, and everyone, remember, when life becomes a battleground, knowledge is your best weapon.
Did you just make that up, man?
Every Tuesday, it's Newsday.